The Inquisition, an infamous group of institutions set up within the Catholic Church, was feared extensively for the severity of its tortures and brutality. Although the papacy and, occasionally, secular governments developed the Inquisition as a legal process and later as an institution to deal with heresy, it soon became much more than that. To know more about what the evil office did and why its name is alive to this day, keep watching the video. From the outset, heresies were a challenge for the Church. Arians and Manichaeans were prevalent in the early ages, followed by Cathars and Waldenses in the medieval era, Lutherans, Hussites, and Calvinists in the Renaissance. Heresy suppression initiatives were at first haphazard. However, a permanent framework was created to address the issue during the Middle Ages. Thus, in the 12th century, when church councils mandated that heretics be put on trial by secular authorities, the Inquisition was born. The name Inquisition is derived from the Latin verb inquiro, which means to inquire into. And although the Inquisition lasted for hundreds of years, it is mostly notorious for its abuse and torture of Muslims and Jews. Its harshest embodiment was in Spain, where the Spanish Inquisition ruled for more than 200 years and executed almost 32,000 people. We will get to all this in a second. Now, back to the story. Pope Lucius III dispatched priests to southern France in 1184 to find so-called Catharist heretics. Through the 14th century, these initiatives persisted. The Church also hunted down Waldensians in Germany and Italy during this time. Similarly, Pope Gregory assigned the Dominican and Franciscan organizations the task of finding heretics in 1231. Then, Pope Innocent IV also permitted inquisitors to torture resistant heretics in 1252. It is difficult to say how frequent this technique was in the 13th century. Still, the Knights Templar trial in 1307, which involved a military religious order, clearly demonstrates that the Inquisition approved of the use of torture. An inquisitor typically declared a time limit while beginning an inquiry in a particular area. During that time, anyone who willingly admitted their participation in heresy and that of others would only be subjected to mild punishments like pilgrimage or lashing. Those who were accused of blasphemy had to provide testimony. However, if the heretic refused to confess, torture and hanging were unavoidable options. There were frequently the targets of false allegations too, but these people were not permitted to confront their accusers or acquire legal assistance. Early in the 14th century, Bernard Guay penned the renowned manual for inquisitors known as Conduct of the Inquisition into Heretical Depravity. But, Guay was himself a villain in Umberto Eco's book The Name of the Rose, as he had declared over 600 people to be heretics. There were numerous instances of power abuse. Despite their confessions, heretics were known to be burned at stake by Count Raymond VII of Toulouse. His successor, Count Alphonse, seized the accused's lands to expand his wealth. Thousands of Knights Templar were executed due to the inquisitors' involvement in the 1307 mass detention. The most well-known victim of this branch of the Inquisition was Joan of Arc, who was burned at the stake in 1431. Inquisitions were regularly founded, appointed, and governed by clerical tribunals from the 15th through the 19th centuries. They were tasked to locate and eradicate heretical religious beliefs and practices in Christian Europe. Ferdinand and Isabella, the King and Queen of Aragon and Castile, feared upsetting Christian subjects who demanded a tougher stance against conversos because Christian support was essential in a forthcoming campaign against Muslims plotted in Granada. The royal couple also worried that even reliable conversos secretly practiced their old religion. Thus, to avoid death, 20,000 conversos admitted to heresy in 1481. The inquisitors ordered them to list other heretics as part of their punishment. However, still by the end of the year, many conversos had been burned to death. The Spanish Inquisition was the biggest and most well-known of these inquisitions, founded by Pope Sixtus IV on November 1, 1478, at the request of Ferdinand and Isabella. Thousands died during the forced deportation of Moriscos, Spanish Muslims who had been baptized as Christians. It started under Torquemada, the most infamous of the Grand Inquisitors. The Spanish Inquisition, with its infamous autos da fe, marks a troubling period in the Inquisition's history because of its interactions with converted Jews, Muslims, and Illuminists. The Inquisition was milder in Northern Europe and was never established in England. It also had little effect in the Scandinavian nations. Upon hearing conversos' grievances, Pope Sextus declared that the Spanish Inquisition was excessively harsh and falsely convicting conversos. These conversos had come to Rome to escape persecution. Sextus selected a group of advisors to assume leadership of the Inquisition. Torquemada was appointed Inquisitor General and was responsible for establishing tribunals throughout Spain. To obtain confessions, torture was eventually institutionalized. The heresy investigations that Torquemada conducted on members of the Church ultimately led to his doom. The Pope, Alexander VI, was persuaded by the complaints brought to his attention that Torquemada needed to be restrained. Until his death in 1498, Torquemada was compelled to share leadership responsibilities with 4 other clergy members. The Inquisition was created in Mexico in 1570 and moved throughout the America as Spain extended its territory. In 1574, Lutheran executions were carried out by burning them at the stake. The following year, the Inquisition arrived in Peru, where Protestants were similarly tortured and set on fire as a punishment. In 1580, Spain and Portugal began their united reign under the Spanish crown. They started rounding up and killing Jews who had fled Spain during this time. Conversos Philip II also reignited warfare against the Moors, who rose against him and were either put to death or sold into slavery due to their rebellion. After he died in 1598, Philip II was able to pass the mantle of leadership to his son, Philip III, who responded to the Muslim revolt by expelling them. Between 1609 and 1615, around 150,000 Muslims who had previously converted to Christianity were expelled from Spain. Around the mid of the 16th century, the Inquisition and Catholic domination had become such a part of daily life in Spanish territory that Protestants left certain areas entirely. The Inquisition in Spain came to an end with Napoleon's conquest of Spain in 1808, prompting him to issue a proclamation that ended the country's practice of the Inquisition. After Napoleon's defeat in 1814, Ferdinand VII tried to revive it. But the French government eventually prevented him from doing so and also assisted Ferdinand in trying to put down a furious revolt. The Inquisition was officially put out of business in 1834 due to the terms of the agreement reached with France. Cayetano Ripoll, a Spanish schoolmaster, was the final person to be put to death by the Inquisition. He was killed for heresy in the year 1826. Although the institution has changed its name several times over the centuries, the Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Roman and Universal Inquisition is still in operation today. The word used for it now is the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. This brings us to the end of this video. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and sharing, so we can keep bringing more content like this. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.